Welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. I'm Angela Lockwood, and thank you so much for joining me today. I am using a brand new podcasting platform today, thanks to Riverside. So my fingers are crossed today that everything goes smoothly and according to plan, because technology is one of my big stresses, particularly when recording things like this and speaking to wonderful people like my guest who's joining me today. I've got to do a little disclaimer here. I've been working with my guest today for the last couple of months, supporting her and her team around inclusion strategies for her early learning centre. But we're going to jump in and talk about that in the podcast. There's so many things I'm going to cover with our guest today. I sort of have to keep focused myself and I've got to follow my notes a little bit here because I know we'll go off on tangents and speak about so many things. But Candis, welcome to A Kid's Life podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be a part of today's episode.
Thank you. Now, Candis Henry is the Managing Director of Bossy Early Learning Centre. And what I love, Candis, about when I met you and when I started to work with you and support you is your energy is just beautiful. It's exactly the energy that I see when people work with kids that they need, you know, that vibrancy and that desire to make kids' lives fun and be able to support the people that work with kids. I just love it. There's just something very unique about being around you. And what is that? I guess, where do you draw from that energy? Because you're a mum of 3 little boys yourself. Talking to you sometimes can feel a bit tiring about how you fit it all in. But where do you draw this zest for life and this love of kids from?
So, do you know, I actually get asked this all the time, like, how are you always so happy and positive? My husband probably will say something different. But I don't know, I just have a really beautiful life and I concentrate on a lot of gratitude every single day. And I feel like, I don't know, as I walk out the door, sometimes it's fake it till you make it kind of vibe, but you just don't have a choice when I walk into the doors at work. Like, it's game on for me, I guess. And I feel like as my role in a centre working with so many awesome educators and children, it's my role to make everybody feel good, I feel. So, yeah, that's what I try and do my best. So it is kind of fake it till you make it most days.
Well, you fake it very well by the looks and the feel of things, because I think that's the one thing I know I find it difficult when I'm working with kids. And I only posted something recently on my socials around me laying flat in a swing, exhausted at the end of the day. Being with kids and being surrounded by kids is energetically very tiring. And it always fascinates me when people like yourself who run early learning centres or childcare centres or involved with kids, when you have children of your own, how do you make the transition from home to that space without and actually to work and also from work to home? How do you not drag all that energy and overwhelm through your day so that it affects either environment?
I'm still learning, so I don't actually even have a key for that. But I think it's just trying to be conscious of the way you feel when you rock up at home. And if the day has been challenging at work and trying to get home, I'm trying really consciously to make sure that I'm still giving time to my children and to my family. So I may not be nailing that just yet. That's going to be a long process, I think, that I'll forever be working on. But I am really conscious of trying to make the best efforts to stay in the right headspace for different zones of my day. So I guess it's just talking myself through the processes every day.
So what are some of those strategies that you use? Because I keep saying, you know, energy around kids can be exhausting, but they can also be energy giving. You know, you can really light up when you're around kids. You can feel great. All your problems can go away. But what are some of the strategies that you use in either environments, home or at work, to help keep that energy up?
Music is my number one. I love a good playlist. So I'll often just put on some music on my way to work of a morning. I do that with my kids on the way to school, or if we're in the car and everyone's having a meltdown in the car, we turn on our favourite songs. So I really love music. But I'm a good self-talker. So I can have a good conversation with myself and really change my state pretty quickly. And I think the way I learned to do that was through physically changing the positions that I'm in. So I'm really good if I know that I'm not feeling good, that I get up and I move. Or I know that I'm in a negative state, that I have to focus on something good. So I can just forget that and start to focus on something better, and then come back to this when I am in a better headspace. So I guess, it's taken a lot of time to acknowledge the way I feel and learning how to change that. But, definitely music and movement.
Yeah, and it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But it's almost that, and I speak about this all the time, that pressing pause moment of going, hang on a minute, what is it that I need right now? I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed. What do I need right now? But I know that your background's you've got a pretty interesting background as well. So even though we're talking about a director and a managing director of a early learning centre, you've also got background in life coaching and neurolinguistics, a whole range of things. So has this always been an interest of yours in this, I guess, is positivity mindset? Or is it something that since you've had kids that you've gone, hang on, this is really important to me?
No, it was probably before I had kids, and now I'm just surviving. Definitely before I had kids, I've always been a pretty positive and energetic kind of person. That's just always been me. I'm lucky. I had a beautiful growing up. I've got an amazing big family. I've always been an energetic and happy go-getter. When I met my husband, I remember him saying, "You just live in your own bubble." And I'm like, please leave me in my bubble. I'm happy here. So I always have had that. But I went to an event once, and it was a Tony Robbins event called Date with Destiny, and it cost me a lot of money. And at that moment, I didn't realize the value in that. And when people say it was worth every cent, but you don't understand it because you think, how could you pay that? It really was. And that was a really big turning point for me. And I spent the rest of from that day on focusing on so much good and gratitude every single day. So I think I taught myself that years ago. Now I accidentally just go to that every time. I do come home from work cranky sometimes, and my husband will know if I'm not in a really good headspace. But I'm not a snappy kind of person. I just know that, look, I'm not feeling myself. You're not going to get me right now at my best, but I'm still showing up. And I think that's probably what's most important.
If you don't mind me touching on this, this optimistic mindset and positivity, I would imagine would have been challenged. And knowing Candis's background, that she has a child who had quite high needs, and you were faced with a lot of challenging moments in your eldest son's early years yourself. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that, and how did you? I don't want to say get through it. I guess, you're still experiencing the after effects of what happened. If you can share a little bit about what happened and what were some of the things that you did and you had to draw on during those challenging times.
So Knox was diagnosed with a brain tumour when he was 18 months. But unfortunately, we didn't know until he was basically unconscious one day, and that's when we found out. And the tumour had caused all this fluid to build up in his brain. So he was at a stage where survival just was not a very high percentage. So, do you know what? I honestly not 1 second thought that it was going to be bad. I just didn't allow myself to think that. And I think because I had to really stay positive, so a doctor would tell us something and I would change the words to the way I wanted to hear it. And I would then relay those words onto other people the way I wanted to take it. So I kind of got comfort in, I guess, changing the story every single day to, wow, he's doing awesome, or little things that really sucked, like we're getting delayed with things, but in my mindset it was like somebody else needs this more than us right now, so let's just stay patient today. So I got myself through every single day not allowing the thought of what if. I never Googled any situations. I never asked questions that I needed an answer to. I just played day by day. And obviously well, not obviously because you don't know, but Noxie was at the Children's Lady Salento, it was called at the time, Brisbane Children's Hospital. And we were up there for about 3 months that we lived up there. So I just, every day, it was, everything's going to be okay, let's just be patient. And that's just how it's always been. It's never been anything different than that until he's gotten a little bit older and we do see him struggle with the brain fatigue and things like that. That's probably harder now that he's a bit older. As he was younger, every time he hit a goal, we were just celebrating so hard all the time. So now I think it's probably been the most challenging over the last 12 months than it was when he's on life support, to be honest, because when they're at that stage, you don't have any choice but to be brave and confident that it's going to be okay. So that's how we did it every day.
And I'd imagine that would have been really challenging for you when other people don't have that same way of thinking either. Or were you fortunate to be in a situation where you were surrounded by like-minded people, or did you have people that really challenged that way of thinking?
I think, to be honest, people were too probably scared to talk to us in any other way. It was just me relaying a story and nobody would ask a question back. So I didn't really feel challenged in the way I was feeling at all. Probably helping Kurt survive those days was also, like, looking back now, he wasn't coping like I was, so it really forced us to connect because I would cope for him, and the day that I didn't feel very well, he would cope for me. So we had a really good team. And
Kurt being your husband, and I think you've touched on something there. I think I often wonder about, and I haven't been in this situation myself for my children, but I definitely have been when I had a head injury myself when I was younger. Is people aren't sure how to be around situations like this, whether it be, somebody who's been diagnosed with cancer or somebody who's had, quite a traumatic injury, that fear of not wanting to say the wrong thing. Do you feel it is, or is it people are just worried for you? Why do you think people find it so difficult to engage in those moments?
Yeah, people do. People did worry, and they probably still worry about me now. And I genuinely can say to people, I am actually genuinely okay. Like, I'm not putting on a show. I am okay. I choose to be okay every single day. So I haven't had any conflict in those situations besides maybe people thinking that I'm not. But I say to everybody, I have a choice, and every day my choice is to be happy.
I maybe can see why there's an energy alignment between you and me, Candis, and I'm looking behind me in the video here. It's my book, The Power of Conscious Choice. I'm such a big believer in how we turn up and the choices we make in the moment really do. They just shape how we experience life, don't they? Like, we can either have that thinking that things are completely out of our control and we have no ability to have any choice in moments, but actually it's the complete opposite. Things can happen to us that are out of our control, but what we choose in that moment, right there, make the decision, actually shapes the reality of what happens. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think looking and knowing what you have gone through as a family with Knox as a little boy, how are you now finding that experience has shaped your dealings with families who are coming through your early learning centre? And has it had an impact at all on how you relate to other families in moments who might be going through their own stuff?
It has been the biggest blessing in something that is so shitty, because I have so much more compassion, understanding and respect in the early childhood industry, and I see children coming through now, and it just makes me feel so compassionate about wanting to try and help them the best that they can so that when they do get to school, they are going to be thriving and they're not going to be labelled as they do get to school. I feel like working for Knox since he was 18 months, he has had OTs, psychologists, physios, speeches. We've had that many rehab teams, which we're so grateful for. They've all been super amazing. But it's been so cool because we've got to learn so much. So for the last 5 years, I have been speaking with all of these therapists weekly, fortnightly. At the start, Knox was seeing them 2 to 3 times a week. We were going to therapists. I went with him to every session. So I've learnt so much. So I look at children now and think I'm so lucky I have the opportunity to see things that other people aren't seeing, or to offer support that I know is helpful in that moment that somebody else that hasn't been through what I've been through may not be noticing. So I do feel like it's given me a really good drive to make sure that we do utilise all the amazing support that children can be getting.
Now you've come into Bossy Boots. How long have you had that for?
I haven't even had it for a year yet.
Oh my goodness gracious me. So Bossy Boots, I guess if we could say, is an early learning centre in a regional town. Would you call it, I guess, regional, but it's near city. It's
Yeah, they do call it regional, but for us here it feels like no way.
And one of the things I would love to touch on now, I guess, is that concept of inclusion, because you have such this personal experience coming in, you have this philosophy of mindset around, I guess, supporting people for where they're at, and you reached out to me around supporting you with inclusion and helping educate your educators around what inclusion looks like and some of those strategies from my perspective and my experience. I'd love to know why, from your point of view, is inclusion, I guess, what does it look like for you? What is it when you look at inclusion, what is it that you want to create in your space for the kids, for the families, but also for your team? Because it's, let's face it, inclusion isn't just about the educators, it's not just about the kids, and it's not just about the families, it's everyone working together. So what's inclusion from your perspective, and why is it so important?
It's changed so much, inclusion has, in centres, in a really good way. We're super lucky, the direction that it is going in now, and I think a lot of centres are getting on board with this as well. And we're so lucky, obviously, to have you training our educators. It's been so awesome just to change the conversations that people are having too, and just to understand a little bit more, because I feel like previously I really didn't know what an OT did.
Sorry, so many people still don't. They're still confused.
I have these conversations and they're like, well, I'm like, an OT is one of the most valuable people in your child's support corner. It's crazy. And same with speeches. Everyone just thinks they help you with your lisp or something to do with sounds. It's just such a bigger picture of the support that people can be offered. And I feel like we're not educated enough in knowing what that support actually is. So having you come into our centre and train with our educators just offers them the opportunity to have that kind of knowledge and education in our centre. I feel like previous to taking on this, to having you working with our educators, everybody was wanting the same goal, but they all had different ways about trying to achieve it, and nobody was on board with each other. So it was hard because there wasn't that consistent, I don't even know the right word to use, but there wasn't consistent learnings each day for the children. So I feel like now that we've had you on board, everybody's on the same page now. And I feel like that is just helping our classes thrive so much. And the biggest learning that I think that you have given us all so far is to just stop in the moment. And how can we help right now in this moment, instead of being so focused on the big picture? So I feel like that's been one of our biggest assets so far as a centre, is being able to stop in a moment and figure out how we can help.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. It's like I planted you to say all these lovely things. Thanks, Candis. But it's the opposite. If I could take a step back from all that, because it took you to reach out and see the importance of inclusion. And I think that's what I love in the work that I do, is that you have to really want to create these safe spaces and these inclusive spaces for kids to thrive. Because if you don't, and it's just a box ticking exercise, you're always going to be faced with a struggle. Like, educators are not going to be on board because they're not going to feel your passion. They're not going to get it. There's just going to be another training program that they're running through. It's another box ticking exercise. And I think that's the one thing when I met you, Candis, and you spoke to me about the vision for what inclusion should look like in your centre. It was from that the place of really caring. And I know this sounds very fluffy, but I say it all the time that we can go through all the nitty gritties and we can go through all the learnings and the theory, but ultimately you have to have a deep desire and a care for wanting to ensure all kids have the best start in life. And that's, I bang on about that so often, as that's what drives me, is that every child, no matter who they are, where they come from, what challenge they're facing, they all deserve to have the best start in life. And, if we can come into working with kids with a mindset of love and care and just meeting them for where they're at and going, I want the best for you, I just sort of see the rest as easy. But that bit's a bit challenging. Have you come across, I guess, not just in this centre, but in your work, with all the therapists and with people, through working with Knox as well, and, your experiences with him, have you come up with some brick walls? Or some of that old school thinking of, this child has this need, therefore we can't, or, it's in the too hard basket. Have you ever come up with anything like that? And how did you work through it?
I haven't personally with Noxie, and probably because of my attitude. I'm so obsessed with everybody that helps us. So we haven't really had any roadblocks with that. But I guess now, being a business owner, we did come into those kind of roadblocks, and I wanted inclusion to not be solely focused on the children that were, I'm going to say the word distracting in a class, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but so we were so focused on how we can help them sit down at this time and do this at that time and make sure that everything in the way we wanted our day to run was running perfectly. So we were so focused when something didn't go to plan, instead of focusing on how we can actually just make the day flow nicely for everybody. And I could see we were so caught up in just these, trying to get these children to join into these activities. And it was just causing more chaos for everybody. So I feel like being able to provide them with opportunities is hopefully creating a calmer space for everybody, not just for the children that I could see that all of their attention was going to, because then you've got the children that are compliant missing out, as well as the children that are not wanting to get involved in some of the activities. So for me, inclusion hasn't been about directly one or two children in a class that may need some extra support. Inclusion has been about supporting everybody in that class so that it isn't just one-on-one for a few children, everybody else just survives. Everybody in the class is thriving. And it's also, I love the children, but I really love my educators as well. And I don't want them to feel defeated. So I feel like the more we can educate them and support them to grow, their day is going to be easier too, which then makes the children's days easier, which makes my day easier. There's a big flow-on effect.
And you're so right, Candis, because I guess the angle that I like to come with too is that when you can instill inclusive practices and create that calm environment and put things in place that can help all of the kids, then it actually helps the adults so much more. Like, we hear burnout is out of control in the education sector. I see it every single day in my work in schools, that burnout is out of control and people are going, I don't know how to support the needs of these kids. And it's not just kids that have been diagnosed with something. It's not even just the kids who are identified as having challenges. There's a lot of kids that are actually struggling, but and you use the word beautifully, they're compliant. So they're just following the routines, but they're actually struggling in their own way. And what I want to see is teachers not leaving the profession, or educators not leaving because they don't know what to do, or they don't know how to keep up themselves, because it's actually around slowing everything down and going, you mentioned it before, what is that in that moment? Hey, what is it that I can do for this child right now? And it makes everyone's life so much easier. But I'm so glad to hear you say all that sort of stuff, because I'm so with you. It makes me feel so happy that there's that ripple effect that's happening. And you imagine with, how many kids that you've got coming through your centre each year, if each educator can, I guess, adapt their practice a little bit, each of those children will have the benefit of that each and every year, the flow on of that. What I would love to just touch on, you said about being a business owner, you're a mum of 3 young boys that, what are they, 7 and under? 7 and under?
6, 5 and 2.
5 and 2, and you're now the owner of an early learning centre. We've got children. You're doing amazing things with the educators. How are you, I guess, looking after yourself amongst all of that? Because even though this podcast is about a kid's life, let's face it, adults are the ones that support them. So we also have to look after ourselves. So what are some of the things that you do to make sure that, you're being at your best?
Oh, I'm so ashamed to say that I really haven't prioritized that yet. But I feel like because I'm not drowning right now, because I've allowed myself to be okay with this role I've got right now, knowing that, cool, let's just get through this first year of business. Let's find our feet. Let's do everything we can for our kids. Obviously, Knox has got 1,000 appointments all the time as well, and I don't miss out on one of them. I volunteer at the school all the time. Like, I haven't dropped a beat as a mum, and I'm still learning in the business. And I say to myself every day, my time will come where I can just chill. So I can talk myself through that. If I do feel like I'm really getting overwhelmed, I know that I just need a really good night's sleep. But I don't know, I love just hanging out with my kids. So sometimes they're at that age where I'm still pretty obsessed with them. So sometimes just sitting at home with them playing and nobody having a fight or a meltdown is just enough for me to recharge.
I love that. The recharge moment is when no one's arguing or fighting. It's such a sweet spot.
It's only sometimes as well, but I do say to myself that I will give myself a lot of time soon, but right now this is my time to really dive into what I'm trying to do.
So if we have other directors of childcare centres or early learning centres that are listening, what do you do to instill some of those practices around self-care to your educators? So is there anything that you have as a part of your processes and systems of the day so that your educators can press pause if they need to?
I would like to hope that I show up for them every day enough for them to be like, I know I need to tap out today and I can support them. I know in our last session with you, and was so valuable about saying to our educators that we're not saying you can't do it, but we're saying take 5 minutes because we love you. Not take 5 minutes out of the room because we think you're not doing a good job. So I feel like once that conversation that you had in the workshop with us, 2 weeks ago was it? I feel like it was so cool because it just redirected everybody's thought process in that, so that we can offer support without them thinking that it is coming from a negative space. It's not. It's coming from a good space. It's still something that I'm really trying to work on, is being able to offer the most support I can to our team. So I'm just hoping that every day I can continue to improve on that. But I'm still learning. So I'm making mistakes every day. And I say to the girls all the time, like, I'll come back and say, hey, I'm so sorry. I listened to you, but I actually brushed it off. And I'm sorry I did that. So I'm really good at going back at things like that. So I just hope that I'm continuing to offer enough support that our girls feel, comfortable and confident when they're at work.
Yeah, and you touched on a really important point there around flipping the, hey, I need help is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you aren't doing the right thing or you don't know what you're talking about. And particularly being in this industry where predominantly, I'm not sure what the stats are, but predominantly they're women who are the educators, females that are juggling a lot of different things. They're often juggling family or study themselves, or they're either new into the industry or they've been around for a long time. There's a lot of things that are happening that having that supportive network to go, hey, you're not in this alone, we've got your back, in a way that is supportive rather than diminishing their skill or their mindset is just so important. Because once we feel judged about asking for help, we will stop asking for help and we'll just struggle. And I think that's a really important point, Candis, for anybody that's listening who is in this space where you are leading teams, where you do have people, particularly in that service industry and that giving industry, that instilling a culture where it's okay to ask for help, and also asking for it yourself and showing that you actually need some time out too is really, really important. I guess if I can just, there's so much I want to ask you, Candis, if we can just flip to the parents' perspective for the moment. One of the things I know that I'm seeing a lot in working in lots of different centres and schools is transitioning. So coming from home to school, from school to home or to the centre. That kids, I'm just noticing that kids seem to be struggling a lot more, that it's, some kids will walk in and they'll be like, see you, mum, bye, or I'm in there, dad, whatever, you're here, good, I'm still playing, sort of thing. What are some strategies that you could advise for parents to help support these transition moments for kids? Because behaviour management is a really big, a stressor for educators. And sometimes those transition moments can help set a kid up for success during the day. So my question is, what are some of the things for parents that you would recommend that they can do to support their kids to transition successfully?
I think one of the biggest things, and it was one of the hardest and biggest lessons for me, is to not put my emotions on my children. So of a morning, like I'm taking them to school and everybody's heightened, I'm trying to get ready to go, or I know my children are going to cry when they would go to daycare, or the kids are going to kick up a stink. They're pretty good going to school now, but to go to daycare, it was crying at drop-offs all the time. And I feel like I had to create that confident, fun hype every morning. I was exhausted because I was too busy trying to make everyone feel happy and excited about what they were doing every morning. But I also feel like I worried then how they were all day. And then at pickup, I would ask questions, and too many questions. They're already so buggered from their day, and I'm trying to pry in. It was just making it harder and harder. But they're all my insecurities because I didn't know what they were doing for the day. So I feel like my biggest thing was to let go and know that those moments are building resilience, and building resilience is so important for them. So I'll sometimes walk out going, this is a really good moment for them. They are okay, instead of me being like, oh, are you okay? And I'm so worried. And then my emotions are then playing on you. They now know that I'm crazy hyped of a morning because I'm so nervous for them. So I think it's just staying calm in myself. And also, if everything is going crazy, let's just stop. I'm good at being like, let's not rush. Let's just all just stop for a moment. Let's pause, reset, and start the morning again. So I do that when the mornings are hard, and if we're late, we're late. But that doesn't happen very often anymore. So
yeah, one of my husband's and my favourite saying, when we actually still say it all the time, but in the grand scheme of life. We always go, in the grand scheme of life, how big of an issue is this right now? Or in the grand scheme of life, I'm 2 minutes late, 5 minutes late, whatever. What big deal is it if I stop and have a conversation with my daughter while she's upset? Grand scheme of life, that's actually really important right now, or the late stuff isn't. And that's really important. I love hearing that, that you're stopping and just saying, let's just reset for the moment, because we keep rushing through as parents, don't we, often? And we rush, and then it's like kicking the kid out the door of the car when you're at drop off, or, you're walking them in, giving them a kiss and then racing out the door, and kids pick up on that energy, don't they? And I would imagine you, Candis, I see it all the time, is that the child is fine within like 2 minutes after the parent leaves.
It's so crazy. And I've always known, I've worked at a centre and dropped my children off crying and then look through the mirror. I'm in the window 2 seconds later and they're always totally fine. And I'm massive telling my families at Bossy Boots, if they're genuinely upset, we will call you. As a parent, I would hate that my child was sad all day and you didn't tell me. So we actually would call and tell the parent that they're not feeling 100% so that they do know. So I'm really honest like that. But it still doesn't make you feel any better.
You always go, why did they do that? Are they just doing it to challenge me? Why?
It's so hard. But you speak to every mum and then you're like, oh my God, this is cool. Everybody is struggling. It's not just me.
Oh, isn't it terrible? Sometimes you like seeing another parent having a little bit of difficulty because you're like, yes, it's not only me. And I don't email me and message me people saying, how can you say that? But we've all done it. We've all looked at that one parent that's struggling at the same time as you going, yes, we're in this together. Thank you.
It forms a connection though, doesn't it, with another mum? When you look over and you catch eyes and you're like, oh my God, you just feel like everybody comes together in those moments.
Yes.
But you know what, that puts me onto a whole new topic about how we accidentally fall into those negative discussions as well, to kind of then chat and feel like we belong in that space, because I find myself doing that too. Like a parent's like, oh, it was so hard. I'm like, oh, it is. It's so hard. And the next one I think, actually, it's not that hard. I shouldn't have fallen into that conversation and thought, actually, is it really, or are we just telling the same story every day? And now we actually believe that story, but that's a whole nother topic.
It's funny you say that. I can remember I wasn't a great one at the mothers groups.
Yeah.
That sort of I know they're so beneficial for so many, but for me, I wasn't great in those spaces because there'd be a lot of complaining about husbands and things, and I'd be sitting there going, I actually love my husband. He's like, he's helping a lot. We're doing these amazing things, and I was like, I don't know what to say. And so you'd find yourself sometimes going, oh yeah, it's so hard, and I've never thought of it like that, but yeah, it's a very interesting thing we do. Before we finish off, Candis, because there's so many things I could speak to you about, but I would love to know what's your hope for educators? So as the director of an early learning centre, what's your hope for people in the industry that they can do, or anything that you sort of think right now, what I'd love for you to do is this?
Oh my God, I absolutely love that question. What is my hope for educators? I hope that they can create the drive to take action every day. I hope that I can help with your support is train our educators and all educators in inclusion so that we have a toolkit to go to when things aren't going the way we feel like they should be. And I challenge my educators all the time, like, what is the perfect day? Like, our expectations are so high. Like, let go of all these expectations we used to have on everything has to go this way. It's just setting ourselves up to fail on a daily basis, which is why we're feeling so drowned and burnt out. So I hope that we can educate educators enough and give them enough tools that they feel confident to tackle the day, so that they can change their story about it being so hard to it being really rewarding. So that would be my main hope.
So beautiful, Candis. Thanks so much for joining me here on a Kids Life podcast. You've been listening to me, Angela Lockwood, and Candis Henry, the Managing Director and owner of Bossy Boots Early Learning Centre. If you are interested in any of the programs that we have talked about during the interview, please head on over to angelalockwood.com.au and you can check out all the programs that we have there to support parents and educators who are working with kids. If you have liked this episode and any of the other episodes on A Kids Life podcast, please rate, share and subscribe over on any of the platforms that you listen to the podcast. Until next time, I'm Angela Lockwood. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for bringing out the best in our kids and for everything you do to support them.